Hey everybody, Garry Adelman, American Battlefield Trust. It is Bentonville 160. That means we are here in North Carolina. We're 45 minutes or so from Raleigh, and we're going to talk a little bit about this. Check out our other videos that we've done over the years here at Bentonville, although I think we have better equipment now. We're going to have a little bit less wind as we talk about the largest and costliest battle ever fought in North Carolina. Let me set the stage here. It is 1865. Sherman has already marched to the sea. He's already captured and given as a Christmas gift Savannah, and he's going to start moving north through the Carolinas campaign. He's going to split his two armies into different wings as they move northward, one under Henry Warner Slocum, one under Oliver Otis Howard. Some of you might know that name's from a different part of the Civil War as well. And as they're moving north, the Southerners haven't been able to really check Sherman's advance through the Carolinas, but they're going to try. Robert E. Lee's worried that Sherman's going to show up behind him, and he can't possibly take on Sherman and Grant at Richmond and Petersburg. So Joseph E. Johnston is detailed to assemble an army, and he is going to bring people together from everywhere. The Army of Tennessee, from after their performance at the Battle of Nashville and Franklin and things like that. You're talking about troops under Hardee coming up from Savannah. We are talking about Robert Hoke, who spent a lot of the time around Wilmington and New Bern and whatnot during the war. And all these guys are going to come together, plus some, and they're robbing the cradle and the grave, they say, to cobble together an army of about 20,000 soldiers to oppose Sherman's 60,000, not with the hope of victory, with the hope of keeping Sherman busy so he can't join with Grant. And that's going to bring on a battle called Aversboro, where an advanced wing of Henry Warner Slocum is moving forward, and Hardee is detailed to slow him down, and so he does. And Aversboro is super cool. Check it out for the 160th as well if you can. Cool site, great stuff inside, really nice staff. And he slows him down, and then after that, we're talking about March 19th, 1865, the troops are starting to come together on what we now call the Bentonville battlefield. This is Joseph E. Johnston's chance. This is his chance to strike a blow and maybe start to harm Sherman piecemeal and fall on one piece after another. And to start to talk about that, let's bring on Derrick Brown. He's the operations manager here at the Bentonville battlefield, State Historic Site.
All right, so yeah, we're here on the Wilkes Coal Plantation, where the lead division of the 14th Army Corps has been, which is commanded by William Passmore Carlin, Brigadier General. He has been detailed to try to find out what is this Confederate opposition in front of them. Sherman himself has taken off and joined O.O. Howard's right wing and left Slocum's left wing to march on towards Goldsboro, because Sherman has been told by his cavalry commander, Justin Kilpatrick, that the Confederates have in fact fallen back towards Raleigh. So Slocum and his subordinates are very much surprised when they start receiving opposition here at Bentonville, first on the Reddick Morris Farm by Wade Hampton with a cavalry division, and then here on the coal plantation itself. And so Carlin has ordered to do a probing assault to try to find the flank of what supposedly, once again, a cavalry division. And he does cross the field here on the coal plantation. And when they approach within 40 yards of the woods line across the field from us, they in fact run smack dab into the remnants of the once proud Army of Tennessee. 4,500 veterans of the Army of Tennessee who hold their fire, conceal themselves until Carlin is within, once again, about 40 yards. And they fire Commander of the 13th Michigan, Major Willard Eaton, who's actually been promoted to colonel. His promotion gets to Savannah after he's left. So he doesn't know it yet, but Eaton is shot through the head, leading 13th Michigan in Beall's brigade, which is on the left of the assault. The Western brigade back on the opposite side, over on the behind me, 3 regiments of Harrison Hobart's brigade advance here, and but once again they all run into the Army of Tennessee, totally surprised, caught off guard. Instead of facing dismounted cavalry, they're actually facing battle-hardened Confederate infantry, and they retreat back across this field. But Carlin is able to rally his men. He rallies them, but unfortunately, he rallies them in this ravine that is here on the opposite side. The men trust Carlin. They really respect him, and they talk about how cool he was, and he was cool in combat. But he actually, in fact, you can make the argument he rallied his division a little bit too soon, because they dig in here on the Confederate side of that ravine. And then 2 hours later, at 2:45, when the rest of Johnston's army is finally here on the field, Hardee's Corps has to arrive here from Avery'sboro. Once they get here, the Confederates launch what has gone down in history. Historian Mark Bradley has coined the term the last grand charge. The Army of Tennessee comes here across the coal plantation. That the Army of Tennessee is reinforced by William Booth Taliaferro's division of Hardee's Corps. And so 6,500 men swoop down on probably on fewer than 2,000 Federals here under Carlin. And Carlin, once again, cool. He is trying to encourage his men. Although they're in a terrible situation, he's trying to encourage his men, and one tactic he does use is he takes muskets from cowering soldiers and fires at the advancing Confederates. He's going to do that, though, one too many times, and when he eventually turns around to hand the musket back, the bulk of his division has retreated without his permission. General James Buell orders a retreat, so Carlin is forced to flee, literally falls in the ditch, gets covered in mud, which actually probably either saves General Carlin's life or at least saves him from being captured, because Carlin woke up that morning and put on his finest uniform. And he said, because he knows there's going to be a battle today, and he wants everyone on the field to be able to see him. Or maybe he's saying that in his memoirs 20 years later, and he thought he was going to be one of the first generals into Goldsboro. But either way, he's wearing his finest uniform, and he would be very conspicuous except for all the mud that he's now caked in, and that literally allows him to retreat and catch up with his division. His memoirs are quite humorous. He literally describes himself running neck and neck with Confederates on both sides of it. So thus far of the battle here on the coal plantation, things have gone perfectly for the Confederates. So they've knocked out that lead Union division of the 14th Corps, but there are 3 more forward ranked divisions behind them.
Good. And we're going to go ahead and cover this stuff. We're going to meet at our next stop. We're going to talk about the sort of climax of the battle, a climax that comes near the beginning of the battle. Go figure that. One of the other reasons this place is so interesting. This place is not a place you grasp in just a half an hour. It's a complex battle. It's a real deal fight. We're going to pick it up over at a place called the Bullpen. Oh my God, I can't believe it. We are getting eaten alive here, so we're going to keep this quick. I can even see Derrick behind the camera with about 9 mosquitoes on him. Yes. We're in the bullpen. I was always told you'll never come back here because it was impenetrable, and now the state has been able to do it because of the preserved land, because of money they've received in grants. They can now make a trail out here. Now, this really shows the type of nightmarish terrain it would have been like, where guys couldn't even build breastworks. I'm looking at the Union earthworks over there, and there's really hardly anything to them because they weren't really built of earth. It was like a lot of log and muck and everything. I'm glad we have even that much of a depression even left. Suffice to say that Morgan's guys come in here and they're going to be confronted on 2, 3, some might even say 4 sides, depending on how you look at it. And with no further ado, I'm going to hand this mic right to him, and we're going to talk about this action so we can get out of here.
Yeah, so Bullpen is one of those things where we never thought we'd be able to get to, but through an awesome partnership with the North Carolina Mountains to Sea Trail, they helped us get a trail back here. And it is really cool because it is where Morgan's stand happened. This is where the wheels start to come off for the battle for the Confederates on day 1. Morgan's, the 2nd Division of 14th Army Corps, actually stands against Hoke's assault from the east. So to your right, Hoke's assault, and then as they are celebrating repelling Hoke's attack, which is an hour late because Bragg decided to wait for reinforcements that he likely didn't need. He could have had this ground for free. But the Federals are celebrating repulsing Hoke, and as they're celebrating, they hear rebel yells and the whiz of bullets from behind them. Here comes a portion of the Army of Tennessee, commanded by, and it's actually Lee's Corps, elements of Stephen Lee's Corps, commanded by General D.H. Hill, and they attack Morgan from behind, but this is the 3rd engagement on the 19th for Lee's Corps, and they are starting to run out of steam, and a counterattack by 2 regiments, including the 10th and 14th Michigan, are going to wind up ruining all momentum for the Army of Tennessee, and eventually these guys have to retreat back across the road.
And retreat we will as well, man. And this thing is all set up. It won't pivot away from Derrick, but let me just say, I don't hear anybody in North Carolina speak as quickly as Derrick just did, getting swarmed by mosquitoes. So we'll be back. Hey everybody, here we are overlooking sort of the scene of the Benton House, Johnston's headquarters, the hamlet of Bentonville, which I'm told isn't such a hamlet. Maybe Derrick will come and disabuse me of that notion as well. And man, we just barely escaped. I'm going to challenge Andy, our video guy, to zoom in on the size of some of those mosquitoes that we were just filming in the bullpen. We were both just scrambling. I'm waving my hat around, and Derrick, like a champ, was just getting bit.
Yes.
And I see him growing on his arms right now. So that was pretty crazy. I was glad to go in there. I wish I'd have had a few more minutes in there before we had to conduct an ignominious retreat from those mosquitoes there, but it's not usually like that. It just happens to be that there's been a lot of rain here lately, and we'll take that from there. Now, just because we're speaking quick and we're moving along here, I just want to go back a little bit, okay? It is March 19th, 1865. The Union shows up with a portion of the advance of Slocum's army. Carlin's division tries to clear the road. They find more than cavalry. Some of them turn off sort of to the north. They're going to run into the Army of Tennessee, and that AOT, with help from Tolliver, is going to launch a counterattack, the last grand charge. That's going to get all the way to sort of behind the bullpen, while there's Union troops in the bullpen facing that way against Hoke's guys and maybe some of McLaws's guys. So they are just completely surrounded, but the Union is going to launch some spoiling attacks at the same time that 16 cannons show up over here, and here comes Cogswell's brigade coming up over here, and the Southerners begin a retrograde. And then for the next day, you know, you're going to have the rest of the Union Army arrive, and here is Joseph E. Johnston, Mr. Retreat, staying on the battlefield here. He's trying to accomplish his goals and get his wounded away and everything like that. So that not a whole lot happens other than deployments and a reckless charge that occurs, and that's going to bring us to March 21st, where the Confederate line sort of resembles a horseshoe, kind of going like this and all the way around there. I like to call it the famous upside-down duck. But you can decide by looking at the map. And I think I've said enough. I'm going to go grab this thing from Derrick. I'm going to hand him this, and then let's see what he has to say.
So, yes, because of the arrival of the Army of the Tennessee, which is Sherman's right wing under Howard, that horseshoe has to be formed, because the reason Johnston has to form a horseshoe is because he now only has one route of escape, and that is across the rain-swollen Mill Creek, which is on the north side of the village of Bentonville, and I'm sure if we go see it today, is just equally as rain-swollen as it was here in March of 1865. But so he has to protect that bridge. That's his only route off the field. Johnston's going to kind of give a couple contradictory reasons for staying. As Garry said, his official reason is to recover his wounded, remove his wounded from the field. But we know in doing research, many of the Confederate wounded are abandoned here on the field. So we don't know if that's the true reason. We also know Johnston's marching orders from Lee, which Johnston, of course, initially objected to. Johnston's been ordered by Lee to attack Sherman, if possible, deal him a blow. Whatever you do, keep him occupied in North Carolina. Well, guess what? Johnston has Sherman occupied here at Bentonville, but the problem is both wings of Sherman's army are here. But maybe, fortunately for the Confederates, Sherman himself is very reluctant to attack. Sherman really thinks Johnston may have a trick up his sleeve, and Johnston really hopes that Sherman will attack, but he needs to attack in the right place. But the problem is, Sherman, like I said, isn't going to allow some sort of heedless attack when he's almost to Goldsboro with all the reinforcements he's going to receive, essentially an entire third wing, so he essentially an entire army. And if Sherman just waits till he gets to Goldsboro, his force is going to swell to about 90,000. He probably overestimates how many troops Johnston has, but even if Johnston does have 30, there's just no reason for him to attack in Sherman's mind. But one of Sherman's more aggressive division commanders decides, and he's in the 17th Corps, General Mower decides that he's tired of waiting around. He gets permission from his Corps commander within earshot of Sherman, his Corps commander, General Frank Blair, to launch a little reconnaissance. And by a little reconnaissance, he means, of course, with his entire division, he is going to launch a right hook and actually go way out in no man's land and eventually show up, cross a swamp, and show up within eyesight, exiting this tree line there in the distance, and he's going to show up right in front of Johnston's headquarters. Johnston is, and this is in the afternoon of March 21st, Johnston is in his headquarters, allegedly in his slippers. Never really figured out why he's wearing slippers in the middle of the day. Plantar fasciitis for all we know. But he is literally going to have to escape on foot. his headquarters is captured, his sword is captured, not a ceremonial, not his father's sword that had saved his life, likely at Seven Pines, but Johnston himself is nearly captured, and as Johnston flees, a series of desperate Confederate cavalry charges, so mounted cavalry charges like we always preach that do not happen against infantry during the Civil War, do occur here near the village of Bentonville, including the 8th Texas Cavalry with their newest recruit, a young Willie Hardy, the son of William J. Hardy. Young Willie is going to be mortally wounded in this cavalry charge. And these desperate cavalry charges do slow Mower down just enough for General Hardy to organize a counterattack. And he's going to strip the Confederate right, because the left wing, Sherman's left, has had all the fighting those guys really want. So Hardy's going to be able to strip the Confederate right and launch a series of counterattacks. Sherman, who's angry that Mower more or less violated his orders, refuses to reinforce Mower. He tells him he got himself into it. He's going to have to get himself out of it. This has really also angered General Howard, who commands the right wing. Howard is angry because Sherman has told Howard he can't attack, and here goes one of Howard's divisions attacking without permission, more or less on orders, allowed to do this by Sherman, and then Howard is not allowed to launch an assault to pry his division free for safety. Sherman is eventually going to admit, he's going to say something to the effect, almost a quote, that the only mistake I made at Bentonville, which is very debatable, but the only mistake he makes is not reinforcing Mower, because he probably could have bagged Johnston's army. Johnston now realizes that the hopes of Sherman attacking where he is strong on the line, that's just not going to happen. And so Johnston realizes, discretion being the better part of valor, he is going to retreat that night, the night of March 21st, across Mill Creek Bridge, hoping eventually to save his army to fight another day.
Good. Now hang on to that thing, because this is your moment here, Derrick. Okay, someone's never been to Bentonville before. You and I have been quite a few times. You more than me for many years. You know, you got 30 seconds. What is somebody going to find when they come into this great park?
Yeah, the coolest thing to me about Bentonville is we are adding new interpretation. Seems like almost every day. It's a fast-paced thing. Much of that is thanks to the Battlefield Trust, who has been crucial for us to acquire this property. And now that we have the property, we are actually being able to do more and more to interpret it. I like to joke that Gettysburg has been interpreted since July 4th, 1863. But here we are getting the opportunity, because of our partners at the American Battlefield Trust, to be able to do this on the ground floor. And so even if you've been to Bentonville in the past couple years, you definitely need to come back, because I really think you'll find something new. And we're super proud of the Bullpen Trail, and I promise it's not always a mosquito-infested swamp like it just happens to be today.
Good. Let me hand this to you, and we'll wrap this thing up. First of all, I can't stress enough how gratifying it is. I think my first trip here was in about 2000, and what a change it is. It is not only twice as large, going from 300 to 600, 900, 1200, 2,000 acres or more now, and seeing that these guys are trail madmen. There are just trails connecting almost everywhere now, and some of the best pull-offs you'll ever find for cars and buses when you come. So I encourage you to come to Bentonville. I encourage you to learn about Aversboro and Bentonville, and that natural conclusion of that at Bennett Place, and it might open up a whole a whole new interest for you pertaining to the Civil War. So thanks so much to the State Historic Site for having us here. Thanks to Derrick. Thanks for Colby Stevens for supporting this. Thanks to you all for supporting battlefield preservation and education.
Hello, this is Trace Atkins. To stay up to date on all the latest and coolest videos, please subscribe to the Trust's YouTube channel. Preserve, educate, inspire.